Forget everything you thought you knew about what it means to be a man or a woman in a relationship. The old rules no longer apply. Relationships are suffering. Misunderstandings about gender roles are tearing couples apart, and social media is only making it worse. We're seeing a polarization of perceptions that's creating unrealistic expectations and ramping up tension between partners. But in this video, we're going to dive into the psychology behind these misunderstandings and give you the tools to create stronger, more fulfilling relationships. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, traditional gender roles. For centuries, we've been told that men are from Mars and women are from Venus, as if they're entirely different species. And these outdated ideas were seen as biological truths, handed down through generations like some kind of relationship gospel. But here's the thing, these rigid gender roles, they're backfiring on us big time. They're not just outdated, they're downright damaging to our relationships and our personal growth. Think about it, how many times have you heard phrases like man up? Or act more like a lady? These seemingly harmless expressions carry a ton of baggage. They reinforce the idea that masculinity and femininity are mutually exclusive, like oil and water that can never mix. We are not binary beings. We exist on a spectrum of traits and behaviors. The truth is, every person has both masculine and feminine energies within them. It's not about choosing one or the other. It's about finding the right balance for you. When we limit ourselves to these narrow definitions, we're cutting ourselves off from a whole range of emotions, behaviors, and experiences that could be enriching our lives and our relationships. And these super rigid gender roles can manifest in some really toxic ways. For example, restricted career choices, mental health issues, sexual objectification, body image pressure, discrimination, reinforced stereotypes, as well as violence and harassment, and loads more. They're actually eroding trust and emotional safety in all of our relationships. And on both sides of this gender divide, we've got this victim mindset. And this isn't exclusive to any gender, but it's the way that these rigid roles can mess us up. When we are told that we have to be one way because it is masculine or it is feminine, then we see ourselves as stuck in this role that we can't change. And then we start to see ourselves as victims of everyone else's ideas. But the good news is that you are not stuck with these limiting beliefs. Just like you can learn a new language or pick up a new skill, you can actually learn healthier behaviors. You can learn better beliefs. And it starts with recognizing these toxic traits and consciously working to change them. So embracing masculine and feminine qualities isn't about becoming someone you're not. It's about allowing yourself to be fully you. When you accept that you can be both strong and sensitive, both assertive and nurturing, you open up a whole new world of authentic self-expression. And guess what? This self-acceptance and growth doesn't just benefit you, it's the foundation for a lot more healthier, fulfilling relationships. When both partners in a relationship feel free to express their full range of traits and emotions, it creates a much deeper understanding and a deeper connection between you both. But there's something that's making the problem even worse, and that's social media. So you might be thinking, what does my Instagram feed have to do with my relationship? Well, it's affecting how we interact with each other on a daily basis. Social media has become kind of an echo chamber, amplifying our differences and polarizing our perceptions of gender. So we're bombarded with unrealistic images and extreme viewpoints, and it creates a distorted view of what it means to be a man or a woman in today's world. This heightened tension is really starting to spill over into our relationships, and it makes it harder for couples to understand and connect with each other. And it's not just straight couples. It's not just, the idea of one man, one woman. This actually affects LGBTQ plus relationships as well. These extreme forms of identity that we see on social media pushes people to be more divided. There are so many different identities, and oftentimes within these identities that we are pushed into, we are expected to create and demonize an other, to look at another subset of fellow human beings who are also forced to be pushed into an identity, to see them as beneath us. This is the damage that social media can do. So what can we do about this? Well, the first step is recognizing the influence that social media has on our perceptions. We need to understand that what we see online isn't always an accurate reflection of reality. It's a highlight reel, and it showcases a lot of extremes rather than everyday experiences. And simply by acknowledging this and processing it, we can approach relationships with a lot more realistic and human expectations and a lot greater empathy. We can start to see past these rigid identities and these stereotypes and start connecting with each other as individuals, not as caricatures painted by social media. But what are the solutions here? How can we bridge this widening gender gap and build stronger connections within our relationships? Well, it starts with recognizing the communication breakdown between men and women and everything in between. We can bridge this gap, and it starts with understanding and empathy on all fronts. We need to step out of our bubble. It's so easy nowadays to surround ourselves with people who think like us, creating these echo chambers that reinforce our beliefs. So how do you recognize that you are in an echo chamber? Well, you may have found this yourself, that if somebody within your in-group says something that you find problematic, damaging, toxic even, and you feel the need to reject them completely, to push them out of the group and to never speak with them again. this is creating an echo chamber. This is actually severing connections with another human being. Because if you think about it this way, pushing them out, ejecting them from a specific group or from a friendship, it's not going to change their mind. It's not going to engage them and get them to rethink this toxic view. It actually often creates a chain reaction that reinforces that view. So let's say they are a man and they have a toxic opinion on women. And as a woman, you say, well, this is wrong. Get out of my life. That toxic view about women may actually expand because the way they see it, that gender has reacted toxically towards them. So this doesn't change their mind. It doesn't engage them in an effective way to challenge their beliefs. It will simply reinforce that they're right. So the first step is making a conscious effort to engage with people who do have different perspectives. This could mean joining mixed gender groups, attending diverse social events, or simply striking up conversations with people that you wouldn't normally talk to. Next, engage in open dialogue. We need to create safe spaces where men and women can honestly express their fears and expectations and experiences without judgment. If you're in a relationship, set aside to really talk about gender roles and expectations. If you're single, have these conversations with people across the gender spectrum. The goal is to understand, not to debate or to prove a point. The more that you understand, the less angry and polarized you'll be in your opinion. Because if you do take the time to understand them, then you won't feel the anger and fear. You'll simply be able to empathize, get on their level, and then you'll be able to emotionally regulate yourself and provide a much more compelling argument against some of the maybe more toxic beliefs. And this leads on to the next point, which is developing emotional intelligence. This involves recognizing and managing your own emotions, as well as understanding the emotional responses of other people. It's about being able to read social cues, expressing empathy, and communicating effectively. And these skills are invaluable in any relationship, romantic or otherwise. One powerful technique is perspective taking. Try putting yourself in the shoes of someone of the opposite gender. What fears might they have? What pressures do they face? This exercise can be really eye-opening because it can help to foster genuine empathy towards someone, and it stops creating that divide between you both. And it's really important to acknowledge that both men, women, non-binary, every gender faces unique struggles in the modern dating landscape. Men can feel pressure to be confident and take the lead, while simultaneously fearing rejection or being labeled as creepy. Women, on the other hand, may struggle with balancing their desire for independence with traditional expectations of femininity. Non-binary people can be faced with a lot of rejection and stigma from a lot of different sides of society. And yes, it's important to recognize your own struggle, but it's important to recognize and empathize with the struggles that happen outside of yourself. By recognizing these spectrum of challenges, we can start to break down the whole us versus them mentality that often pervades gender discussions. Remember, we are all just human beings trying to connect and to find happiness. So what is the key to breaking free from these gender wars? And there's only so much detail that I can dive in a YouTube video, but if you do want a deeper dive into relationships and understanding how they work, then join us on the free relationship bootcamp, where you'll learn the tools and skills that all of my successful members have used to build themselves a thriving relationship from the ground up. Click on the link in the description to reserve your place today. Well, the first step is to challenge your ideas about gender roles. Think about how these preconceptions might be holding you back from deeper connections with your partner, with the rest of the world, and embracing both masculine and feminine qualities within ourselves and within our partners. It's about rejecting traditional gender roles and to figure out between yourselves what are the roles within this relationship that work for both of you. Whether you're female, male, female, trans, non-binary, whatever it is. Forgetting what you feel like should be the traditional roles and actually figuring out the compatibility and the roles that work for your relationship. And in this way, you can both embrace both masculine and feminine qualities and create a much more balanced relationship that leads to a much more authentic relationship where we can truly be ourselves. And here's something you can do in your relationship right now. Start a conversation with your partner or a friend about gender expectations in relationships. Just practice listening to them, trying to understand their perspective without jumping in to defend your own identity. And it's crucial that you get outside your own bubble. If you're struggling to understand the opposite sex or maybe even a gender identity that you don't identify with, try reading some of the media that they consume. Put yourself in their shoes and think to yourself, what would I be feeling if I were them? What would the challenges be within my life? What would I be fearing? What would I be worried about? Doing this will help you to build this empathy towards this identity that you don't necessarily identify with. And most of all, it's crucial to understand the different energy dynamics, the masculine, the feminine energy within yourself and within other people. We're not just one thing, right? And of course, the whole idea of masculine and feminine energy can be a little bit confusing. So I actually made a deeper dive video onto that, which I'll leave you with right here, and I'll see you over there.